Imagine this: the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi stepping onto Indian soil at a time when the wounds of Galwan still linger, the Himalayas remain militarized, and the world's two most populous nations are eyeing each other with suspicion and necessity. This isn't just a routine diplomatic visit. It is a high-stakes game where every handshake hides a calculation. Every smile conceals a strategy, and every word carries the weight of 1 billion people's expectations. Why is Beijing sending one of its most powerful men to New Delhi now? And what does it mean for the future of Asia, the balance of global power? In the coming days, the eyes of the world will shift toward New Delhi as China's top diplomat, Foreign Minister Wang Yi, prepares to set foot in India. This is not just another bilateral meeting on the long list of diplomatic engagements between two neighbors. This is happening at a time when India and China, two of the oldest civilizations and two of the fastest-growing modern powers, are grappling with one of the most complicated relationships in global politics. On the surface, it appears as a standard diplomatic visiting exchange of courtesies, discussions on trade, perhaps even symbolic steps to show the world that dialogue is still possible. But beneath the surface, the stakes are far higher, and the world knows it. To understand why Wang Yi's visit matters, we must step back into history for a moment. India and China share not just a long geographical border, but also centuries of cultural, economic, and spiritual exchange. Yet, in the modern era, the relationship has been defined as much by rivalry as by partnership. The 1962 border war, the unresolved boundary disputes across the Himalayas, and the tragic clash at Galwan Valley in 2020 have left scars that remain fresh in the minds of Indians. At the same time, both nations are deeply intertwined. Economically, China is one of India's largest trading partners, and India represents one of the biggest consumer markets for Chinese goods. This duality competition mixed with dependence makes every diplomatic encounter between New Delhi and Beijing layered with meaning. Now add to this already complex picture the presence of external powers. The United States, under successive administrations, has sought to draw India closer as a counterbalance to China in the Indo-Pacific. Russia, historically India's defense partner, maintains its own delicate dance with Beijing. Europe, too, watches carefully, as Asia increasingly becomes the arena where the next chapter of global order will be written. Against this backdrop, Wang Yi's visit is not simply about bilateral ties. It is about signaling to the world that China wants to manage its relationship with India, especially when tensions with Washington are rising and when Beijing's global image has been tested on multiple fronts. Why now? That's the question analysts everywhere are asking. On one hand, Beijing understands that open hostility with India serves no one, especially when both sides face economic pressures at home and shifting geopolitical winds abroad. On the other hand, China also knows that India is not easily swayed, has pursued independent foreign policies. Even when under pressure from the West, the timing of Wang Yi's visit suggests that Beijing is preparing for the next phase of regional politics, and it does not want India drifting too far into Washington's embrace. For India, the decision to host Wang Yi is equally strategic. New Delhi knows that engagement, however difficult, is necessary. Dialogue keeps doors open, reduces risks of accidental escalation, and shows the world that India is confident enough to sit across the table even with its strongest rivals. But at the same time, New Delhi will be cautious, firm in defending its sovereignty, clear in highlighting its red lines, and deliberate in ensuring that no gesture is misinterpreted as weakness. This is where we begin, a visit that may appear routine but, in truth, could be a turning point in how Asia's two giants learn to navigate rivalry, coexistence, and perhaps even cautious cooperation. When we talk about India and China, we often default to the political or military angle, border tensions, territorial disputes, or diplomatic spats. But make no mistake, the heart of this relationship and one of the main reasons Wang Yi's visit is so significant lies in economics and strategy. These are not just two large countries. They are two giants that together house more than one-third of humanity and drive a massive portion of the global economy. Whatever they decide to do or not to do sends ripple effects across Asia and beyond. Consider trade. Despite strained political ties, the economic relationship between India and China has grown enormously over the past 2 decades. China has become one of India's largest trading partners, exporting everything from smartphones and machinery to solar panels and raw materials. Indian pharmaceutical companies rely on Chinese active ingredients. Indian manufacturers depend on Chinese electronics and components. Meanwhile, China looks to India not just as a consumer market of over 1 billion people, but also as a potential investment hub, though this has been restricted in recent years due to security concerns. The paradox is striking. Politically, relations are tense, but economically, dependence runs deep. This is why Wang Yi's visit carries weight. Economic signals will be closely watched. Will there be discussions to ease restrictions on Chinese investment in India's tech sector? Will Beijing seek greater access to India's agricultural exports? Could there even be talks about stabilizing supply chains that have been hit hard by both the pandemic and global geopolitical turmoil? These are the types of questions that policymakers and business leaders will be analyzing in the days ahead. But economics is only one side of the story. The other is strategy. For China, India represents both a competitor and a counterweight in Asia. Beijing is acutely aware of India's growing partnership with the United States, Japan, and Australia through the Quad. These alignments are not just symbolic. They reflect real strategic calculations about balancing China's expanding influence in the Indo-Pacific. For New Delhi, every handshake with Washington or Tokyo is a reminder to Beijing that India has options. From India's perspective, engaging with China even cautiously offers multiple advantages. It provides space for New Delhi to assert its independence, to show that it will not be boxed into being just an American ally, and to keep the channels of communication open with its largest neighbor. It also gives India the chance to press its concerns directly. The border situation, the need for de-escalation, and the importance of respecting sovereignty. In this sense, Wang Yi's visit is less about solving everything overnight, and more about managing the relationship, keeping it from sliding into hostility while each side pursues its own ambitions. The global implications cannot be overstated. Investors in Europe, diplomats in Washington, and strategists in Moscow will all be dissecting every detail of this visit. A slight softening of tone could be read as a sign that Asia's two biggest powers are willing to coexist, at least for now. A misstep, however, could reinforce narratives of rivalry and suspicion. This balancing act is delicate, and both sides know it. So as Wang Yi arrives, India's leaders will be weighing their words carefully. They know that behind the cameras and the handshakes lie serious questions. Can India and China build enough trust to stabilize their economic and strategic ties? Or are they destined to remain locked in a relationship of convenience forever shadowed by mistrust? The answer may not come this week, but the direction will certainly be shaped by what unfolds in the meetings to come. If economics and strategy form the visible skeleton of India-China relations, diplomacy and security are the lifeblood flowing through it. And this is where Wang Yi's visit becomes not just symbolic, but also sensitive, even fragile.